Coach, why'd you start Herbert? And was he markedly better in practice than your senior was? And just some reflection on how this guy did. Did he sort of put him into a firestorm here a little bit?
I mean, that firestorm term obviously is relative, but I thought he prepared great last week. And the biggest thing, our team needed a spark. Not only our offense needed a spark, but the team needed a spark. And two guys that handled it great were Justin Herbert and Dakota Prukop. And Dakota should get a lot of credit for that, of how he handled it. And from the word go last Monday, the team knew exactly what we were doing, and it showed. We prepared very well starting on that Monday, and you know, other, like we were just talking about, other than the first throw, there's obviously a million things that you'll coach up going forward. The first throw, the biggest thing he didn't do was trust himself, which is very common for a young guy. That particular throw was just a you know, rhythm throw, and he hitched and didn't quite trust himself, which he made the throw actually later in the game. And so against that team, playing as well as they were, his poise, his composure was excellent, and now we have to, you know, help him out across the board.
Do you feel comfortable going with Herbert going forward, or are you going to reassess in the off week?
Well, we'll always, you know, reassess and compete, but I would see that going forward, yes, as I sit here right now.
Mark, you guys have talked defensively in practice that you've seen some improvements. What are you seeing on Saturdays that isn't carrying over, or is it just what's kind of the difference between practice and what's happening on Saturdays?
Well, certainly the you know, the chess piece versus the chess piece is different as a scout team versus a you know, a top 5 team right now that Washington is, and you know, there were some fit problems obviously on the power play multiple times, which is something that we've been hammering since the first week when we kind of got hit with it. And so again, it's just total commitment to what we're doing. And we had some times where we had a couple pressures called that we didn't execute appropriately or properly, and we've got to coach it up better.
Coach, I just wanted to ask, given the situation, how do you keep the kids engaged and keep their confidence building moving forward for the rest of the season?
We treat them exactly the same after a win or a loss, and we keep coaching them, we keep loving them, we keep, you know, focusing on the future. We're very honest with them. Again, when we sit down and we assess what's going on, we take responsibility for what we should as coaches, and you know, they do the same as players.
Coach, do you think there are some changes afoot that you need to make, or are you just going to try to refine what you're doing and execute those things?
Both. You know, I think, you know, there's certainly schematic things, principles things as far as what we're doing and will do going forward. And you know, part of it is, yeah, communication, refining all those things.
Charles Nelson.
Yeah, Charles Nelson's on the other side of the glass. Right here on the right.
Mark, if Herbert were to go down, say in the next game, would you give Terry Wilson a shot, or would you roll with Prukop as the backup?
Prukop, yeah. We're going to try to redshirt Terry at this point.
Offensive line besides maybe.
Mark Brady said he stopped and kind of took a look at the scoreboard, and it's one he's going to remember for a long time. How do you kind of is this different than a normal loss, or is this one that is kind of unsettling given, you know, who you were playing and the score?
Absolutely. It's different than a normal loss, no question.
Tyson in the middle.
Were you guys just giving Royce a breather there, or was he?
He was unavailable for a time. Yeah, we had several skill guys that were unavailable.
Warren on the right.
Mark, on a loss like this, how do you go about dissecting what was good and what was bad, and are you going to try to find the good things, or what do you do with the film, something like this?
Yeah, you have to learn from it, and you know, absolutely, there's good, there's always good, as dire as things are, and then there's always when you win 72-3, there's always a bunch of stuff you should have done differently or better, and we'll assess and address both.
Mark, you're 2-4. You need to go 4-2 just to be bowl eligible. Is this a rebuilding job now with Herbert moving forward and playing a lot of younger players? A lot of times it's seen youth movements in sports. Is this a youth movement?
I don't know what that means necessarily. I mean, we're gonna put the best person in there to win the game, and we truly believe that was Justin tonight, and we're gonna do that at every position going forward.
At this point of the season, how do you sort of reassess the goals and what you want to see on a day-to-day level and a game-to-game level and in a big picture level?
Yeah, we never really talk about winning. We talk about process and improvement and better, and that at some point will show up on the scoreboard, and it's been a rough go of it right now. Certainly there's individuals that that impacts differently than others, and we know that. But our number one goal is to improve and to get better.
Mark, you always in the past have talked about making sure that your team's not listening to outside noise. A lot of time that was hype and good stuff. In this situation, when the outside noise will be different, how do you handle that, making sure that your team doesn't? Do you make sure they don't listen to it, or?
It's pretty similar. Whether it's the same person that tells you you're the greatest player ever in the history of the world, smartest coach ever in the history of the world, is the same person that is going to go the opposite direction. They're the exact same person, and that's where we have to stick together and be, again, very honest with one another as we assess coaches, players, everybody in this deal, what's going on, and we're the only people that can solve it.
I know you praised the way Dakota handled himself this week. Just how hard of a conversation was that to have, considering what he gave up coming here and just how things have gone? Just what was that conversation like?
Yeah, I mean, you can imagine how difficult that was, and that's something again that we know. These guys are people. These guys are young men. He decided to come here with a lot of other great options, and that's one of those things that you can't really factor that in when you're making the decision of what's best for your program, but you have to factor that in when you're having that talk with that person. And so sure, that those things aren't necessarily fun or enjoyable, but they're what's best.
Is there such a thing as a good time to have a bye week or a bad time to have a bye week? And if so, is there one thing you want your guys to take into this week as they have the week off?
Well, yeah, there's your bye week is when it is, and we'll take advantage of it whenever it is. And sometimes we have a little bit more control over that than others. But we need to obviously heal physically and psychologically going forward, and we'll take the opportunity to do both. We'll have a couple off days that we wouldn't otherwise have, and then we'll practice and lift Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.